That was the first real major attack on public worker unions. What made America great? What really made America? There's a new pilot program that's being initiative in 6 states right now for Medicare. There's going to be people die, Danny.
All right, so we are here at the UAW Hall, and I'm sitting with Kirk Gillenwater. Kirk is the president of the Kentucky Alliance for the Retired Americans, and he is a lifelong advocate for the working people and a veteran leader in the labor movement. Kirk, this is like my third handshake today, but it's really a pleasure and an honor to meet you today and have you in here with me.
Thank you very much, Danny, for you taking the opportunity to allow me to have some words with you on your podcast that we're hoping to really reach a lot of people here in the future.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, brother. And so Kirk, I want to start. We have a lot of things I want to go over with you because you're an interesting man. You have a long history with labor and vast experience in this sector. But I want to start with you, Kirk, and I just want you to tell us who you are. What is the Kentucky Alliance for the Retired Americans and what you do in your current role?
Well, thank you, Danny. I'm 73 years old, and I first started paying union dues with the UAW back in 1970 while I was going to college. And so I was given a summer job each summer while I was going to college. And so then when I finished college with my degree, I decided to come back in a little assembly plant at UAW because I knew at the first election that I could get elected, and I wanted to be involved and be part of the labor movement. The Kentucky Alliance for Retired Americans, this is a coalition within the unions and community, and we are a group we are under the umbrella of the AFL-CIO. We're the advocate for seniors and retirees on healthcare, economics, and protections and education.
Very good. And so what exactly does the organization do in regards to the retired Americans? What type of services or things you provide that are for our retired population?
One of the things, and many in our group have been union activists over the years, that we have lobbied here, not only in the state level, but also at the national level within the D.C. area. So we work on any issue that deals with seniors, healthcare, property taxes, trying educational programs across the state. We've worked with groups trying to ensure the protection for pensions at the federal level, which we were able to, especially the input that we had with the Pension Guaranteed Corporation right there. One of the things that Joe Biden did, he added about $60-some billion to that back in 2024. That was huge for a lot of retirees, and especially with the Teamsters and Central State pension funds.
Right. Well, it's good that you guys are there. Especially, it's good for me to know that you're there because one day I'll need it too. So I'm glad for the work that you're doing and all the things that you guys are involved with. And I just want to lean into a little bit more about labor and labor advocacy, because your experience, like it's top level experience in this world. You've been in it for a long time across multiple presidential administrations. Presidential administrations right now, it's a hot topic because the world that we're living right now with this current administration, and it's very interesting for me. Because what we're living through, for me, it's a first. I don't know about you. And I'm very interested to hear about your insight into that. So what's your experience with this current administration? How does it compare with past administrations that you've gone through? If you can give us an idea of what we're facing right now.
This administration, and Donald Trump in particular, has been the biggest union buster that we've ever seen in my lifetime. And having first start going to Washington, D.C. as a UAW activist, that was 1978. And that was over a program that we were trying to start called the Buy American program. And primarily that was about American-made vehicles. One of the last things that Jimmy Carter did, it was the Trade Readjustment Act of 1980. And what that did for when plants were able to prove that they lost their jobs because of imports, that there was a special fund to be able to pay for their unemployment and also for their educational programs. The Louisville Assembly Plant right here, we were the first plant in the United States to qualify for the Trade Readjustment Act of 1980. And so without that, with our long layoff, that made the difference in a lot of people being able to bridge that gap from being unemployed, possibly losing their homes in the next job.
Right.
Now, to move forward, 1980, Ronald Reagan. We saw what Ronald Reagan did when he took on and fired the air traffic controllers because he had promised all these improvements for the federal workers of the air traffic controllers. When they went on strike, he fired them all. That was the first real major attack on public worker unions. He also took receivership of the Teamsters that year. So once again, we're starting to see a little parallel here of administrations.
Yeah.
But here lately, with what the executive orders have done by attacking the public worker unions, right now, contracts have been done away with by executive order for 84.4% of federal workers. That's a little over 1 million public federal workers right there, and it goes to show you what can happen. These attacks by just one thing. This isn't Congress. This is just the administration with the power of the pen on an executive order, and now we're relying on the courts to change all this. We keep going back looking at some of the dates with Joe Biden, with President Biden. What he had done to ensure some money on the American Rescue Plan, what that did to ensure the new green energy, all the billions that was put in there to try to not only try, but to improve the next future jobs and all. So we see monies that are funded to increase job production, and then we see when programs are stopped. And under this administration here, we've seen a lot of stop of those programs right there. We just seen $100 million taken away from the Blue Oval SK plant in Glendale. And once again, it's the power of the pen.
Right. And yeah, the power of the pen is very important, especially nowadays. It is certainly has influenced the way our government is being governed, and it's certainly I don't know. I feel like this is not the way that it was meant to be used as a tool to bypass and this is the whole point of the No Kings rally that we just had this past Saturday. It's not about that we have a king. It's that the powers of the president are being used in a way that a king would use him, bypassing Congress, with the stroke of a pen, doing away with union contracts, and all these different things. Just add to the level of this presidency being as far away from an American democracy as it should. What were some of the, in your experience, some of the best administrations, or the best administrations you were under, and then we'll pivot to the worst?
I think we still need to look at the important role that Congress is supposed to play. I mean, they're the ones that's supposed to write the laws and do the funding. Right now, this is the third time we've had a government shutdown.
Yeah.
And it's been during the administrations of this current president
right
here.
Yeah.
And when he was 45. I like to look at really what made America great. What really made America? You're looking, Danny, at somebody that I'm a recipient, number one, of what made America great. And that was because what took place during the Roosevelt years, the New Deal. Look at what all provided the New Deal for across this country. I try to tell people that paying taxes is buying your part of the future. And if with the New Deal, the infrastructure, interstate infrastructure program, the national parks, some of the things that public education, some of these things that I have valued the most and received the most in my life was from the Roosevelt New Deal. And that's what made America great.
Right. Well, I think this whole MAGA movement is really misleading, right? Make America great again. It's not really leaning into what makes America great. When we talk about what makes America great, one of the biggest things that we as Americans enjoy is liberty and freedom. And this is actually some of the biggest attacks that we're looking at are attacks at our First Amendment rights, attacks at labor rights, at civil movement. This administration is looking to erase history and wants to rearrange history in a way that makes it look like we haven't fought for many of the things that we have. So you're right, and I
Danny,
100%.
let me help you out here.
Yeah, go ahead.
At my age, in the 60s, as a young teenager, watching the civil rights movement, what that did to provide equality across this country right here.
Right.
Let's move up to 1970s,
Mhm.
when women stood up to have the right to choice.
Yeah.
Things that kept a lot of bad things from happening. The right to vote, expanding all that, the Voters' Rights Act. We have seen the things that have benefited for the greater
Greater good.
of good.
Yeah.
It's when extremists, special interests start advocating certain rights that aren't equal rights across the board. And sadly enough, that's what we see a whole lot with this MAGA movement right there.
Right. This movement is more about me and less about us.
It's more about grievances, period. Whatever your grievance is.
Well, you do have a point there. That's right. That's true as well. I believe it's true both. I think this administration's they have tons of grievances with different things like I would say petty things that they just take it at heart, and then because of that, the American people are suffering because of the way that they're persecuting and going after past grievances rather than looking forward and making sure that the America can move forward as a whole, not just for a few.
Since day one, when we had the right to organize, there's always been that movement to take away our right to organize as unions. So this has been a 70-year battle that we've had. I look at the groups that they've put together over the years to try to ensure that we're being attacked. And I look at the Federalist Society, what they've done to create the judicial system, court system across this country to rule against us. Because in most cases, there's so many things that happen to us. Once it goes before the National Labor Relations Board, the other legal aspect is to go to the courts. And so that's
Right.
the other venue we have. But then with the Heritage Foundation, we've watched this bunch, the Koch brothers, to make these attempts once again to take away First Amendment right of speech and the right to organize, or right to gather. And so many of our younger workers who have never had the opportunity to go out on strike, they don't realize the power of the people in negotiation with that aspect of being the threat for contract settlement. And without that threat, what do you really have without the threat to strike? And as government employees, where y'all haven't never had that right to strike, the perfect example of that.
Right. There's no power to the people in a sense, because it's a suppression of the ability for people to being able to express and express in a way that is significant and can actually make an impact. Because if we all just complain about it, right? It sets a different tone. Complaining is different from actually doing something about it. And that's one of the things that are happening. It's happening right now that I'm observing is that they're doing this in a way where it makes us feel like we don't have any other options. Like all we have to do is to be complacent and just give in, give up, forget about the different things and all the different fights that we've gone through. Another thing that I think that's affecting this generation of workers is that they've taken for granted all the rights that we currently have. And this generation thinks that we have the rights that we have because we earned it, and they don't realize that they've been fought and won for, and the government's been on a mission for many years to take them back and take them away from us. Could you talk to us a little bit about those struggles and that fight that got us into what we know as labor movement right now?
Once again, I think it goes back to just in 1980 when Ronald Reagan fired the air traffic controllers. When there's an injury to one, it should be an injury for all.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, there was a lot of problem, I think, within labor, because the two different groups that actually had endorsed Ronald Reagan was the air traffic controllers and the Teamsters. And it was amazing that the two that actually broke the ranks of solidarity happened to be the ones that took the hit. And, we've got an old saying, united we bargain and divided we beg.
Yeah.
And basically that's, I've watched that in my lifetime. When, as the most difficult task that any union member will ever have is if they offer to try to be an organizer. And there's very few people that are really cut out to be organizers because of how difficult it is. And that's where we either win or we lose, especially when we look at this momentum of what the percentages are now between the unionized workers. I think in Kentucky right now, we're right there around 14%. It's one of the highest numbers that we've had in years. We're also the highest in the South, too, anything below the Mason-Dixon line right there. So,
right. So, and you make this great point about people needing to stay together, right? And I want to dive in a little bit deeper into that.
That's what a union is, brother.
That's what a union. I think, in a way, people have lost the meaning to what a union really is.
Let me tell you the word I think that we've lost, and it's that word solidarity. We see that banner carried around a lot. But once again, when one group of workers are doing real well, and when you can't stand up for the workers that aren't doing well, that's the attack that the other side wants to see on the breaking aspect of solidarity.
Right. Why this attack to that? What do you think that is?
We got this little word called greed, man. And greed has a tendency. I used to always say, within the auto industry and in building trades, a lot of times, it's feast or famine. How the economy is going, what the purchase power is of the public is how we work. We either work in maximum overtime, or for people like myself, I've been laid off to up to a year and a half at one time before. So we have seen our jobs are tied to the economy.
Yeah.
And that's what so many younger workers really don't realize. When the numbers start coming up, and right now, we do not have those numbers being compiled on the number of job creations. We have no accurate numbers because one of the things the Trump administration has done is to done away with vital statistics, which is part of the public union workers, some of the work that they have done on the aspect of vital statistics.
Yeah, it's just another way to try to control the narrative in a way that makes it seem like it's favorable to them.
Danny, when you don't have the facts are what we always use in defense and able to prove our points. And so without real accurate numbers, then your ability to make subject matter.
You make your own reality.
That's it.
Yeah, you make your own reality, and people will blindly
make up your own facts. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Now, we're at a time where we're often, or at least it feels like unions are kind of losing ground because of the constant attacks.
We're
constant
gaining
attacks.
Ground, brother.
And that's
union membership is up all across this whole country and across Kentucky. So sorry for me to have to correct you like that, but we've got the highest popularity of support, and statistically speaking, across this country right now, because people are realizing with the strikes and the negotiated contracts that we had, in 23 and 24, the public has realized, number one, we're out there leading the ability for other people maybe to make a little bit more money because of being in competition. Number one, to keep the unions out. You see,
Right.
that's the difference between the private sector unions and the public sector unions.
Right.
Because there's more that we can do for contract negotiating in the private sector than what y'all can. So we're out here. When I look at the benefits that Toyota plant gets or the Nissan plant, they get what they get to keep us from being able to go in there and organize. And as an organizer in the past with the Mercedes plant, I saw whenever we brought up the issue of what we were receiving, the company would just make sure they get a little bit more. There was a time that finally I said, hey, I need to go home. They've almost got a better deal than what we've got because of trying to give them everything that we're bringing attention to just to keep the union out. It's a great business model plan.
Yeah, and that's the point that I wanted to get at is that there needs to be we need more voices that make sure that people understand that unions are not losing ground, and the fact that this administration is constantly attacking union rights means that unions are effective. It means that the work that we do essentially is working because at the end of the day, these big corporations, all they care is about the bottom line, and unions bring the human aspect of the side of the business. Of that if you want to process all these numbers and make sure that you meet your quotas, these businesses don't care the cost that they have to make in the human side. People get overworked. They're understaffed, burned out, underpaid.
Yeah, let me give you this. 100 years ago, Henry Ford made the $10 a day worker in his plants. And the reason why, because he wanted them to be able to buy his car. If as workers, we can't buy the products that we're actually making, it's a bad economic plan right there.
Yeah, it sure is. So we agree. Unions aren't losing ground at the moment. But it's the narrative that this administration wants to spin and make it seem like unions are not just a waste of money, but a waste of time, right? They paint unions as the villains and in between these corporations. I can't understand how a person would believe that the people that are on your side are actually harmful for you, right?
Here's the thing. The one thing that they always try to paint is outsiders are going to be your voice.
Yeah.
Know what the union does once we go in and we organize? It's the people within inside that facility. Those are the leadership. That's who's going to run the union, right? What the unions do across this country is we try to educate. We try to give the workers in those plants the education and the tools to where they can be able to represent themselves at the best of their abilities. And that's what we give. And so, but it's easy to say, you're going to be controlled by outsiders, and that's what we continue to hear.
Yeah. Unions really bring out the voice within, not from within a boardroom, but within the actual floor, within the actual production line, within the actual hospital setting.
I can remember with UAW contracts there maybe about 15, 20 years ago, when part of the national contract was we actually had a seat at the table of the board of the companies.
Yeah.
And that was quite, that was, you really had a different perspective of things when you actually had someone that could be there to be that voice for the workers in the plants. Something I really supported.
That's really interesting because nowadays they want to keep you as far away from there as possible. They don't want the people to understand the inner workings of organizations, and it makes it hard from a union perspective. How can we work together to make sure that this business actually stays afloat while maintaining dignity and respect and all these different things for our workers?
That's one of the things of capitalism. A lot of times people don't want to admit it with corporations, but we're sometimes the most valuable thing that a company has. And by that I mean we know how to build these things. We know how to improve these items that we do build. And at the same time, without the company being profitable, how are we going to benefit better? So that whole aspect of the negative little connotation there trying to say that we're just a drain on the system right there. No, we try to do things to be creative to ensure that we're part of the success for the and the good companies. That's what the involvement with the union is the success for all.
Right. It ultimately it benefits the companies as well. When you work with your employees, and work with the labor unions, you're going to be successful. It's not gonna. It may hurt the bottom line at certain areas, but it'll hurt the parts where if you keep it going, you're going to hurt people.
You know, I look back at like the Chicago School of Business, Milton Friedman. You know, and he was an advocate to try to do everything he could to destroy unions. Okay, mm-hmm. And where we changed some of the concepts, trying to create more programs where the employees could be involved, and that's one of the things about employee involvement.
Yeah,
that's one of the biggest aspects of trying to show the collaboration between the worker and the company. Okay,
right. So what do they want to keep us out from there? It's you know, if I just want people to understand why they want to keep people out of there. Why don't they want their own workers involved on the improvement and or the better of the, not just the business for the people?
Who's the voice of reason for workers across America right now on trying to advocate, whether it's safety in the workplace, whether it's trying to improve the way and benefits? Because, you know, that's the one issue right there that's so important dearly to every worker around the country, is having affordable health care.
Yeah.
And that's also the most difficult thing to negotiate with on these contracts. And that's one of the things we're going to really see a problem with this big ugly bill, that because the attack that it's had on taking money out of the system on the Medicaid and Medicare, and what that's going to do to drive up these health care costs, which that's going to be the thing that's going to be the most difficult thing for unions across this, is to offset that cost to keep from the union members from having to pay out of the pocket expenses for their health care.
Right. So let's talk a little bit about the political climate, because I want people to understand, and I often say on my channel, and you might have heard me say this, is that, you know, it's not about politics, it's about people. But before the show started, you were talking to me a little bit about, you know, the importance of the political side of how it affects our workers, how it affects everything that we do. And we live in a world where politics is everything. So whenever I say it's not about politics, I always want to emphasize that it's not about one party or the other. It's about everybody, because it affects both sides.
Let's try this one, Danny. How about people over profits?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Okay, because basically that's really what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You know, because it is political. I've had the fortune to lobby in Frankfurt for years, and some of the issues during the good times when auto workers in Kentucky, when we had just about everything we could want for benefits and all, but we were advocating trying to increase the minimum wage, trying to have programs for apprenticeship programs for training young workers. The things that I wasn't benefiting from, but once again, trying to benefit and we want to lift people up, and that's the voice that unions are. We're there. We're there because, number one, we have the manpower, we have the monies, and they know that. And
right.
So when we do political, we have the monies to actually push to try to elect the candidates that we know is going to support workers. And on that note, we can always tie. There's a public record within all the unions on the voting issues. Most unions have 10 of the most important issues that they have. And then we keep these voting records. And so all you have to do is you have to look at what the voting record is. It shows whether you are standing with workers or you're standing against it. It's pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think, and that's part of the whole talk about division. Right now, unfortunately, we're seeing people back up a political party more so than the benefit of what benefits me as a constituent, as an American, as a person. What affects my house? What affects the way I can buy groceries, my family, how I get to work. We're facing a shutdown now where I don't even know how people the ones that are furloughed aren't getting paid, how they're getting to work without even being able to afford the gas that they're putting into their own cars. So
We got a little saying when it comes to voting, and we're trying to educate people on the issues, and then when they vote against those issues, they're voting against their own self interest,
right.
and that's what people don't realize. When we're seeing taxes go up, how we're being affected at every different means of inflationary measures that are driven by these political decisions.
Right. So at the end of the day, we have to vote based on what impacts me, not the whole, not a specific narrative that one side will spin to get you to vote for him. That because they're at the end of the day, they're it's like some kind of brainwash. You're listening to the same thing all over again, and it makes you believe what they're saying, and it makes you forget. Oh, I'm going to lose my job. Oh, I'm not going to have a union anymore. I'm not. I'm my First Amendment rights. They don't mean anything. They're not going to mean anything under this administration.
You know, when there's times when the cost of living was so low, and each year we weren't affected much by the cost of living increases.
Yeah.
And so when we did contract negotiations, instead of, or even during the bad cycle times of maybe many recessions and stuff, where we wouldn't go after so much increase in wages, but what we did, we worked on the benefit aspect. And the UAW, one of the best things that we did was our educational programs, trying to train people in advance of possibly in the event that they were to lose a job or something. So
Right.
we put a lot of emphasis on that. We put an emphasis on child care at one time, you know, trying once again to help the younger workers to be able to help alleviate some of that cost by having programs like in helping against child care.
So there's been a huge effort for education. It's like preparing for both sides. You know, you're helping them at the job, but you're also helping them in case something else happens, which our government fails at miserably. And that's just another value that unions bring into the lives of American workers. Now, this is another thing that I've been thinking about. It's been on my mind quite often, and it's the dehumanization of people. We're living in times where we're not looking at each other as human beings. We're looking at each other as either friends or enemies, and we're not looking into finding any common ground, or we're not looking into trying to agree. And you're not always going to agree with everything, but it's either my way or the highway. And this is what's been getting us to the point where we're at. I think we can blame administrations all we want, and Congress all we want, but at the end of the day, we as the people, as the collective, we have to put our own efforts into first looking out for each other, and then you know, I have to think of you as my friend, even if we're not friends, right? Because at the end of the day, you might help me out. You might have something of value for me that I don't know about.
You know, I guess, Danny, because of my age, what I look back on is media sources, and where print media, we used to honor a lot of the print media and the reporting, and now the source of information that people get from news sources that have been bought up completely by the billionaires. We are controlled media-wise now by not just billionaire corporate, it's billionaire individuals. And when we look at this consolidation between radio, between TV and print, now the material that you're fed information-wise, and that's why people like myself, we see this misinformation that goes out there. And and when they start trying to use that word, the bad people, the bad hombre, the painting of a color of what a human being is,
right,
and trying to make that division between workers, because demographic wise, I mean, we have such a variety of melting pots of people inside these plants. This is what the communities are, and it's a face of what the community is.
Right. And we, whenever we think about helping each other, and I think if as a society, if we thought more about each other, we wouldn't be in this mess, right? Right. But we buy into this narrative of, well, you know, this group of people are out to get my job. This group of people are out to get me. This group of people are going to hurt me. This group of people don't deserve to be here. And this kind of mentality of division is the kind of mentality that divides people into groups. And I think it's very deliberate. I think there's a deliberate way that these people are doing this to keep us separate. Because if we're not united, if we're not together, we can't fight. I mean, we're right now, they're making us fight with each other while they're just laughing and trying to push an agenda because we're letting them, because we're too busy fighting each other based on the narratives that they're pushing onto the people.
Danny, I think about my childhood and what I did working as a young child, 14, 15, 16 years old. I washed dishes in a restaurant. You know, you look at how many kids would wash dishes today. Usually the dishwasher in restaurants today is usually an immigrant of some sort, okay? I look at the jobs that we used to consider doing, farm jobs, when we were growing tobacco here in Kentucky.
Yeah.
But then when the youth thought it was too good to use the hands in doing manual labor, you know, we've seen a change, and now it's easy to classify jobs that we know the average American's not going to do. I mean, sadly, they're just not going to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty sometimes right now of who does do those jobs. Years ago, we used to have all kinds of college graduates wanting a job at Ford Motor Company because of the benefits and the pay. But then when we started having the tier pay, when the pay went down, did not progress with the regular workers, when the defined pension plans started being removed, when the lifetime health care started, these jobs didn't become as lucrative for those that had education. You don't see very many people with college degrees applying for these jobs now in these plants, GE, Ford, different manufacturing plants like this.
Right. But there's other people that look at them and they say, I want that job. And we're facing a time where there's some jobs that we don't want, but we also don't want anybody else doing them.
Danny, I can remember there'd be 10,000 people out here on Fern Valley Road when the word was put out that Ford Motor Company was hiring. I mean, I know that sounds like a ridiculous number, but we used to have that because that's how these jobs were looked by the public at the time. And so it's changed. It's changed with the youth, and sadly enough. And so it's going to be difficult, I think, in the future in the job creation, especially with the work, especially with so many of the government employees. When we see the effect AI is going to have upon so many of these jobs, how so many jobs are going to definitely be replaced by AI. And I think that's the biggest threat that we have as far as job creation, in the future.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that we're starting to see now with these mass layoffs that are happening, especially now in the federal sector, is that we're seeing the president saying that many of these positions, we're going to fill them up with AI. Like they're not going to be replaced anymore by a person. And there's no need for persons. And AI will be the greatest threat to the American workforce that we've ever seen, because it's just going to get better.
There's a new pilot program that's being initiated in 6 states right now for Medicare, and the AI will make a determination on what procedures that you're going to be okay with Medicare from your doctor. And so it's just a trial right now, but without a doubt, after those 6, there'll be more states to come, which equates to more jobs lost.
Yeah.
And here's what's bad. It's what that what that Medicare person, what that senior has to do then to try to get a second review of their case, and the time that they're going to lose, a vital time on the ability to actually go out here to get treatment. And because we all know timeline on medical treatments is so very important to catch early diagnosis of things.
Yeah. That's one of the other dangers of AI is that
not the human factor.
There's no human factor to it, and there will be people that will be denied for healthcare that is very needed, emergency healthcare.
There's going to be people died.
There's going to be people. There's going to be absolutely. We're going to lose lives based on this, just because we want to take away the human factor because we want to increase our profits at the bottom at the end of the line. And the more people we replace, the more people that we replace with AI, the less workers that we need, the smaller the workforce gets. But our basic necessities don't go away. We still need food, shelter, water. We still need to get places. And what happens when we have a mass amount of people that can't find a job because they've been replaced with AI?
It's not only the job aspect; it's even the ones that have a job, the inability to have affordable housing, and in some cases, affordable transportation. I know here in Louisville, we had a serious problem at the GE plant right there. Over a lot of the newer workers at GE plant did not have automobile transportation. What we were having to do, we were having to have the mass transit, the TARC of Louisville, to have designated routes from some of the residential areas for apartments to go directly to GE for them to be able to get to work on time and to get home on time.
Right. So accessibility is just another factor. And all of these things, if I look at, and I'm an optimistic person. I try to look at the positive end of things.
I'm a realist.
But yes, I've noticed, and I want to look at things in a positive way, but even for me, it's hard to see a way where if we keep this up, our society is going to crumble because the cost of living keeps going up, and the workforce keeps decreasing. We're going to have more people that needs jobs. There's going to be less jobs available, and prices just keep skyrocketing.
Okay, Danny, I think you're leading in right now to as far as government programs. Let's just talk about the safety net programs.
Yeah.
See, here's what, because there's a term those of us statistically really keep an eye on, is sustainability. And right now we know the sustainability of, number one, Social Security. We know it's being challenged. We know by the Social Security Trust reports that come out usually in May of each year. We know because they do the number of years of fully funding Social Security without hitting a deficit. We've never missed a check now for 90 years. Each month, that check's been there for Social Security recipients. But it looks like in 2032, there's going to be a deficit then, and it's looking right now that we'll take a 23% reduction in Social Security benefits. And something like that, it's be $1,058 for me and my wife. Right. And having been retired for 19 years, that's going to be money that's not going to be able to be replaced. And so once again, sustainability. When we look at the healthcare aspects, the cost of Medicare, once again, using the word, what is the sustainability to keep the doors open at hospitals? Since there is nothing but for-profit healthcare, this is the attack that we have on affordable healthcare right there, and what's best for those of us that need these that needs these treatments and all.
Yeah, and I think the population that's most at risk is probably our elderly population, because most of them are on a fixed income, and they can't afford. A lot of them can't afford our way of living as it is. So can you just touch into a little bit more on the biggest threats that our retired population are facing right now?
In some cases, it's housing. As we've seen housing go up, And in the event that you become just a surviving spouse, that ability to remain in your home right there is much more difficult on surviving spouses because there's only the one income coming in then. We look at, as we see these new changes on Medicare, this extra cost that's going to be attributed to the Medicare Part D, what that's going to do, especially when we look at what the Affordable Health Care Act, and then now trying to reach out to get there's going to be a lot of those programs that's going to drop, especially from not having the state assistance, because Kentucky was almost one of the model programs across the country for our affordable care program here, and that was Governor Steve Beshear. We were very proud. That brought 1.1 million people that never had health care in Kentucky. It increased the longevity, the life longevity of people in Kentucky, because a lot of these people had never had a doctor visit before, unless they just went to an emergency room or something. So a lot of that deals with preventive health care, which increases every aspect of a community and society there.
Right. So these things that are going on right now will eventually lead up, if we don't do anything about it, it's going to lead up to less affordability, which will increase our number of people that are homeless, that are sick, and our mortality rate is eventually going to go up because of this. What can we do? What can we do right now to ensure that we secure the future of Americans?
Most aspects of governing starts at the local level. We look just here in the Louisville area. We look at the community participation in low-income housing, how that work and that voice, what that means to help that particular group right there to have affordable housing. We're very short on it here in the Louisville area. One of the biggest attacks we've seen is private equity companies coming in, buying any reasonably priced home just to create it into a rental home, which is really changing a lot of communities around here for people that own their own home. And then, when you have a constant turnover of people as far as renting a house in a real residential area, we hear and see problems like that. One of the best things of building a community is longevity of neighbors and stuff. And so it hurts on every aspect like that. But I think that's one of the best things I see in this community is the outreach that we have right there. The SNAP program, we're having that program come under attack, which helps to feed, seniors, not only seniors, but children also. What that's going to do, Meals on Wheels, one of the other benefit programs that they tried to cut. A lot of times that's the one meal that people get. And I know a lot of seniors that fall into that category. I don't think we can't expect just every charitable church to be able to make up that difference, or the food banks to be able to make up that difference right there. And so, once again, it's sad to see us lose these things that we know is something vital to so many people that are less fortunate.
Right.
And that's one of the things. That's one of the alliance things that we keep being extremely active in trying to be a voice with legislatures, both the local level, the state level, and the federal level, on ensuring that, once again, their voice is being heard because of our ability, because we are organized.
Absolutely. Well, Kirk, before we end, I always like to give someone my guests the opportunity to, bring up anything that they have in mind. What closing thoughts do you have for us here today?
Wow. I know you said you were very optimistic, and I'm very realistic. And so when I see these trends and the agenda, let's be realizing Project 2025 has been an agenda. Russell Voigt, the Heritage Foundation, they are implementing everything in that Project 2025. Everything is under attack that comes under the federal funding governing. I wished I could say I was optimist, but once again, when I go to No King rallies, when we rally in front of a Social Security office to remind the people that we need this brick and mortar facility because a lot of seniors aren't out there and they don't have access to, they're not computer literate. The Wi-Fi is something that a lot of seniors lose right off the bat because they can't afford Wi-Fi. And I tie this back into, again, how important libraries are to a lot of communities. Because we don't have free Wi-Fi, a lot of even younger people and the older people, they're having to go there. And the more government programs that we've got that require us to be on a computer, the more important that library is going to be, to where we have to go there strictly to be able to do the functions of business that we have to do in order to protect either filing for Medicare, Medicaid, or Social Security. So I am optimistic on seeing 7 million people across America to unite and putting out their individual messages that we want change. And not only change, we know what democracy is.
Yeah.
We know what democracy is. And when there's one party out there that wants to shut the government down strictly so they can cut more and more benefits, defund more and more programs, for what? For a $2.3 trillion for the ultra rich. And once again, it's one thing, man. It's people over profits. That's one of the things that the Alliance will always stand for, and we will definitely fight for better health care for all Americans. All Americans.
Absolutely.
Again. Danny, I can't thank you enough for giving me this opportunity. Really enjoyed this time to get to know you, have these words with you, and I hope that our listening people will be able to appreciate this. And remember one thing, make your voice be heard. And by that, you got two ways of doing it. Write a letter, make a phone call to your elected official. Get an opportunity. If you can actually make an appointment to one of your elected, go to their office. But we have to make voices heard, because there's no reason in the world right now Mike Johnson doesn't call Congress back in session. The business, he's failing to do that. Yeah,
that's right. Well, Kirk, I'm happy to have you here on the show today. You bring a lot of insight to what's happening nowadays, and really, it is your experience and people like you that have kept this fight for so long, that have inspired people like me to be able to keep it going to the best of our ability. So, Kirk, thank you so much for what you've done, for what you're doing, and for what you'll keep doing.
Thank you, Danny, because we're passing the torch, brother, and that's what we need. Other generation realize for all this before me, why I do to be here to try to do my best to activate guys, educate those younger than me, because we're all young at heart, brother.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, sir, and thank you all for watching. If you're listening over on podcast, please make sure to head over to our YouTube channel and make sure to share, like, and subscribe. We want to keep the voices of America alive. We want to keep the voices of America heard, and we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going.
Power is people power, brother.
That's right. Well, thank you very much. All right.
Thank you.
All right. And everybody else, thank you for watching. Stay safe. And remember, we are not giving up. God bless.